in essence, the objectives of DAC6 are to give the tax authorities early warning about potentially aggressive tax planning techniques that have a cross-border element. And when you think of early warning, you say to yourself, well, is it actually consistent with that to have to go all the way back to 25 June 2018? Probably not, but there we are. And the other element of the objective is a bit like the Common Reporting Standard, is to get intermediaries to do the work for the tax authorities. However, it's a little different from the Common Reporting Standard in the sense that we have a much broader spectrum of intermediaries involved. It's not just financial institutions, all sorts of intermediaries involved, which Leigh will be looking at in a short while. This broad scope of intermediaries slightly reined in by the whole concept of legal professional privilege. So certainly lawyers to a large extent are exonerated from reporting. And these intermediaries have a much broader range of obligations and a much more complex set of obligations than was the case under the Common Reporting Standard, well, than is the case under the Common Reporting Standard. The other thing is that clearly the EU wanted to have a uniform set of rules across the EU. I suspect with the view to having as much harmonization as possible and avoiding the need for multiple reporting across the EU. Whether that will be achieved, I think is seriously open to doubt. My own view is that unless clients and trusted advisors of clients take a strong role in relation to DAC6, we're likely to have a whole multiplicity and probably inconsistent reporting across the EU.
So getting to the meat of DAC6, really it's based on looking for hallmarks of tax avoidance. And this is for potential tax avoidance. It doesn't mean there's actually avoidance going on, but what it's to do is to give warning to the tax authorities about what taxpayers are doing, where they consider there's a risk that avoidance might be there. And effectively, they've created 5 hallmark groups, A to E, but these can themselves be split down into effectively 2 types of hallmark. You've got those where I think the authorities have seen a slightly lower risk activity going on and then a higher risk activity. So the lower risk activity, the hallmarks, can be divided into different groups. Firstly, you're talking about the behavior of the advisors. So are they looking for confidentiality in the arrangements that they're putting forward? Is their remuneration linked to a tax advantage? Are they using a standardized set of documentation, so effectively selling a commoditized product? Also, the next group of hallmarks are really looking at certain actions that people do, or parties take part in. Have you got loss buying going on, conversions of income into capital, or have you got circular transactions taking place? And then finally, it's looking really about where some of the parties are. Is there a mismatch between different jurisdictions, between a party's home residence and that of the residence they're relating to? Often, no party's got a choice as to where and what their local tax regime is. And if they happen to have a better tax regime than someone they're dealing with, that's not their fault. So these aren't guarantees of tax avoidance, but they're just risk areas. But these you only have to report on if one of the main benefits of the arrangement is potentially to get a tax advantage. A tax advantage is actually quite a wide concept. It's not just pay less tax, it's get reliefs that you might not otherwise have. It also includes timing advantages. But if that's one of the main objectives, not just to get the tax advantage, and when talking about tax, we don't actually have to include VAT, custom duties, or social security payments, but other taxes. If we look at those, the idea is the taxpayer is going to have to understand whether what they're doing is doing something that's inconsistent with the principles or the policy objectives, which is one of the first things, thinking back to what Andrew said, is you've got to try and work out what those objectives were and try and understand from the legislation, are you acting contrary to those regimes to what was intended by the legislation.